Hello, sir.
Hello.
Yes,
Hi,
I'm
sir.
here. My apology.
Okay.
Can we? Yeah, I see everyone now. Thank you. I can't hear you,
Hi, sir.
Sean. I can hear everybody, but I can't hear Shan.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think it's
Sean,
on
we
mute.
cannot hear you.
Hello, Priyamvada.
Hello, sir. How are you?
Yes, tell me when you want me to start.
Yeah,
I
yes,
think
sir. I
Okay,
think,
are you able to hear me now?
I can hear you now.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, without much ado, I'll start. This is Shan Shankaran from Indian Overseas Congress helping Sam Pitroda with this episode's Sense with Sam. Today, we are going to talk about employment and unemployment in India with young minds. So, over to you, Sam.
Thank you, Sean, and thank you all my friends, Priyamvada, Rafiq, Bala, Isha, and others. I'm going to start with an apology. I got busy on an event in Bangalore on Zoom. Abdullah, one of our engineers at CDOT, whom I had known 40 years ago, has built a very large company in embedded software in Bangalore. And they were celebrating his 25th anniversary. And I had promised Abdullah that I would come. And as usual, they were dancing on the floor and they were all having music. And it was hard to turn them off to listen to a little serious speech from me. So it got delayed. My apology. Good to see you, all of you again. And thank you for the opportunity to talk about employment. Employment, unemployment is a very complicated subject. On the surface, it looks pretty straightforward, but it has huge implications on social, political, and economic activities in any society. Today, world over, employment has become a challenge. There are all kinds of numbers people come up with, and it's hard to just go through different numbers as to how many people are employed, how many are not employed, how many are gainfully employed, how many are underemployed. So we will not go into a lot of the statistics, but we will talk little more about the challenge ahead of us in India and what needs to be done to address this. To do that, we may have to go back in the history and understand the kind of ecosystem and environment we have created in the corporate structures globally. Who do they really serve? Where are the new jobs? The fact still remains very clear to everybody today in India that jobs have not been created as promised in the last 10 years. In India, GDP growth doesn't reflect the job growth. Inequality has increased, jobs have been reduced, rich have become richer, and millions of graduates from college and schools are on the street looking for work. During COVID, crisis we all saw, the migrant crisis. People are moving from rural areas to urban areas, looking for jobs. People are moving from northern India to southern India, where jobs are. And there is a huge movement of people going on in a country. Large number of people are looking for better standard of living. This problem is in front of everybody. You can't hide that. No matter how you massage your numbers, the fact that unemployment is a bigger challenge than we are willing to accept is staring us in the eyes every day. I get requests from lots of friends and relatives saying, would you call in somebody to get me a job? And I tell them, look, jobs don't come like that. But in India, it is accepted that unless and until you put in a good word, the line for that job is too long. Recently, I saw large number of young people from Haryana willing to go to Israel, where there is war going on, but there is a hope to get a better job. Shame that a country of 1.5 billion people cannot find jobs for their own people. And these are ordinary jobs. These are not the jobs for a scientist, great mind that needs huge lab infrastructure and all that. On one hand, we really talk about great economic prosperity. On the other hand, the reality is very different. And I want to talk about that reality more so than anything else. I have very strong views on how to create jobs. And these views are perhaps very different from the views of many people in power or of the corporate executives, business schools. And my views are based on my own personal experiences and commitment to people at the bottom of the economic pyramid. I am one of those who firmly believe that technology has to be taken to the people. It cannot remain in ivory tower benefiting the rich. For the last 35 years, I have been saying that the best brains in the world are busy solving problems of the rich. And as a result, problems of the poor don't get the right kind of talent it needs, because problems of the poor are complex. Unfortunately, those problems don't pay. And as a result, when you get a great education, you want to go work for Goldman Sachs. All young people have this ambition to work for big banks. Or if you have a degree in design, you want to go work for Louis Vuitton or Cartier. But you don't want to work in designing a slum because it's not paying. So I will really talk about the future from a very different angle. Just to give you an idea, we have a group of people, about 30 of us. We regularly meet every Thursday. And we have some great experts in that group. Next week, two of our colleagues, Dr. Ashok Khosla and Ashok Chatterjee, would be talking about employment. Employment is on everybody's mind. But when people talk about employment, They really identify the problem and give you promises that we will create 20 million jobs, we'll create 10 million jobs. Nobody tells you how. Nobody tells you enough about what would it cost to create 20 million jobs. It's one thing to promise and it's another thing to deliver. I want to talk about how are we going to deliver on creating new jobs. And as a result, the conversation is going to be a little more complicated. And then we can open up for a broader question answers. And this session may even either be too long or we may have to break it up into a couple of sessions. I remember in Rajiv Gandhi's time, few of us were given the task under the leadership of Dr. Ashok Ganguly to really understand what does it take to create one job in a sector. How much investment is required to create one job in railways, telecom, housing, agriculture, manufacturing, service sector. And you'll be surprised to know that it was eye-opener. People thought you could create one new job in agriculture quickly, not realizing that it cost to buy a piece of land. People thought you could create a job in railways, but it requires huge amount of asset to create one job in railway. So when we went through that list of what does it take to create one job in terms of capital investment, we were shocked that it takes minimum amount of money to create a new job in construction, especially rural construction. We know that in India we have shortage of homes. Millions and millions live in huts. Very few people upgrade their homes. Very few people really go do things with their own hands. And here is an opportunity to create millions of new jobs, but you don't have the infrastructure to create jobs to build homes, because the idea of building homes today is to create expensive apartments for the rich. So I'm going to talk about some of these issues. I'm very impressed with the jobs that Chinese have created in the last 20 years. Chinese have really taken over all the jobs in the world in manufacturing. How did that happen? What were the policies that drove all the jobs to China? Once we understand these kinds of issues, we will be able to really understand how we'll create jobs of tomorrow. We'll also talk about the implication of AI, robotics, and all of that. I'm going to try my best to connect a lot of these ideas together, but it's difficult. So you may find me rambling a little bit here and there. So bear with me for a while, because at the end, all of these things will begin to make sense. So what Chinese did is really use their political system of authoritarian regime, communist ideology, to line up large number of people to work under hostile conditions for a big company who is ready to make capital investment. So if one of the American companies wanted 50,000 young people to produce something, this company went to Chinese government. They gave them incentives, land, water, electricity, tax breaks. And in addition, they said, okay, we will get you 50,000 young employees. So Chinese government went to rural areas, asked 50,000 people to come and live in bunkers under very hostile conditions and work for 10 hours a day for very little money. And these American companies basically saw cheap labor, great incentives, huge amount of profit that they couldn't refuse because they were focused on optimizing shareholder values. In the process, they lost jobs at home. In a very short span of 10 years, entire world moved to China. Everything is made in China. Even the statue of Ganesh that comes to India is made in China. Sari is made in China. Agarbatti is made in China. How did that happen? Because they had a framework prepared to take all the jobs away from the world, and now world is paying for it. So when you look at employment, you got to look at much bigger picture. So let's start with the multinational idea that people have been promoting, that people want to aspire to today. Every company today wants to be a big multinational. That idea, according to me, originated in India. East India Company was the biggest multinational ever existed. They came to India for a small little trade in the beginning, landed up in Surat, realized that the Bengal was a very rich part of India then, moved to Bengal, and almost 400 years ago saw potential for Indian goods and services. Then in 1760, India was the largest economy in the world. Over 25% of the global trade was from India. East India Company saw that and decided to establish their major operation in India, started dealing in textile, opium, and as a result, built a very complex corporate structure which basically exploited local people, took raw material from India to England, built products in England and sold it to India, and focused only on optimizing shareholder value. Profits, profits, profits. When you look at capital, most of the time people don't talk about human capital, community capital, nature capital, water, air, shareholder capital is the key to them, but not stakeholder capital. Stakeholder capital include employees, include suppliers, and lots of people who are connected with your business. So the East India Company model, which became a global model of corporate profits, continues even today. Every company today that is big is basically, in my words, East India Company of the past. They only worry about corporate profits. 90% of the profits go to shareholders, and perhaps 10-15% go to the stakeholders. People really worry about unicorn. People worry about stock market capitalization. In the process, ordinary people who invest lose a lot, and we have so many stories like that all over. That the real purpose of the corporate is lost. Every major company today takes great pride in optimizing shareholder value. Not long ago, General Electric in America was an ultimate example of great corporate success. A friend of mine, Jack Welch, ran the company. When Jack came to India, he and I had a meeting. He wanted to meet Rajiv Gandhi. Rajiv was busy, so Rajiv asked me to meet with him. So Jairam Ramesh, Monte Kaluwalia, and I had a breakfast with Jack Welch. And my idea was to sell him software, and his idea was to sell us engine, because he was focused only on GE profit. So I told him, I said, Jack, I'm not buying engines. I'm selling software. He said, Sam, I'm not buying software. I'm selling engines. And we said, well, we have nothing to talk. And we sort of locked horns. And Jairam and Monte got worried that Sam is really being arrogant. And I said, Jack, we have nothing to talk. We have breakfast and then we'll say goodbye. After a while, Jack said, okay, tell me what you want to tell me about software. So we had a little presentation on software. And we said, Jack, we want you to buy $10 million worth of software from us. And he said, done. He said, I'll send you a list of people who will come and visit India. You convince them. So in 30 days, 11 executives from GE came to India. When Wipro had 8 people, Infosys had 5 people, didn't have an office. And we started selling software to GE. And my message to Jack was, if you come to India, GE will change. And if you come to India, India will also change. So GE was an example of modern East India Company, which became massive and then became hollow and finally had to be broken off into 3 different companies. So it is important to understand where all the corporates come from today, because they create jobs that we talk about. But there are other jobs that farmers create, that artisans create, that local shop creates, that no one talks about. So when a young fellow graduates, he really wants to go work for these multinationals. He doesn't want to create his own work. He doesn't want to really go work for a small company, small entrepreneurs. It is in this environment we need to create or we need to think of jobs. So when these kind of companies, whether it is East India Company or Dutch enterprise, French enterprise, German enterprise, Spanish enterprise, went to developing world and created institutions of their own. They really created institutions to exploit South. I may sound a little harsh, but the reality is right in front of us. It's still going on where people from North go buy mines in Africa, and Africans are still poor. You take in India mining rights in Orissa or some small Jharkhand or somewhere else, and the profits go to England and America. Those tribals are still poor. You have monetized their asset, but they have not benefited from it. That is the East India Company model that prevails even today. In that kind of mindset, job creation has a different meaning. So people like Gandhi, Mandela, Martin Luther King fought for the rights of the people against that kind of corporate colonization, which ultimately turned into political colonization. Apartheid was an example of corporate presence in Africa in the beginning. Indian colonization was an example of a corporate presence in India in the beginning. If East India Company had not come to India, there won't be British Raj. There are many estimates on this, but one estimate says that British took $45 trillion worth of wealth from India during their occupation in today's term. I don't know how much of that is true, but these numbers are alarming. So capitalism, which is the main sort of structure to create jobs, optimizes only shareholder values and not stakeholder value. They don't look at human capital, community capital, nature capital, capital of the suppliers or anything. And when we are only trying to optimize shareholder value, the job creation has a different meaning. All business schools only teach of, directly or indirectly, East India Company model. They focus more on extracting values than creating values. Remember this, there's a big difference between creating value and extracting value. Business schools are very good at teaching how to extract value, squeeze in this model, that model, this commission, that commission, but teaches very little about how to create value. So when you look at technology is a tool to create value by reducing cost, improving productivity, efficiency, creating new products, new services. And every time there is a new technology, there is a fear of losing old jobs and creating new jobs. First, there is a resistance to technology, whether it is computers or AI. There is a lot of fear that we are going to lose something. I remember in Rajiv Gandhi's time, we were trying to computerize railways, reservation. And we had such a resistance from labor, saying you are going to eliminate our jobs. We had same problem in telecom. Okay. Because in telecom, at that point in time, we had 2 million telephones and 500,000 employees. So people assume that 4 telephones will require 1 employee. And we said, no, 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 no. We want to go to 40 million phones and we want to reduce employees from 500 to 400,000. It was unthinkable. It was seen as anti-labor. So these debates get very confusing at times. So the only way we could sell railway reservation was we could convince employees that you'll have air-conditioned office because computers need air conditioning. That's how we entered railway reservation system. Telecom, we could make a deal with all the employees that we will not fire anybody and we'll give you promotion after 16 years and after 26 years, but we'll stop hiring. And these negotiations take, in telecom, I know it took me 18 months to negotiate that deal with 500,000 employee union. So the point is, every new technology creates a lot of perturbations in the system. Today, the world is not only tuned into East India Company model, but world is also tuned into military industrial complex, which spends $2 trillion a year on military hardware and software when we need only $20 billion a year to eliminate hunger. Not done yet. Poverty, global warming, homelessness, security, safety, environment. None of these things get the kind of investments it needs. But most of the investment goes into military industrial complex. Most of the research, which ultimately percolates down to consumers at some point in time, also comes out of military spending. It is in this kind of an environment we need to look at jobs. I worry about this because if you are centralized, if you are top down, if you are capital intensive, the number of jobs you can create limits you considerably. So the real challenge today is to have a new model of job creation. I worked on this for quite some time. Many of you may not know about IEEE. IEEE is the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers in America. And I wrote a special issue of IEEE transaction on telecom in 1975. You can go to library or you can go to Google and check it out. In there, I talked about telecom development the third way, because then the focus was telephone density. And I said telephone density is a wrong focus for developing world like India. We should focus on accessibility. Now, these are all wild ideas. Not many people even think about. When the world was focused on telephone density, I said we are going to focus on accessibility. We are not going to focus on urban telecom. We're going to focus on rural telecom. We're going to focus on indigenous development, local talent, local manufacturing, and building human capacity. What you see today in India in IT and software is a product of that strategy. No one understands, no one gives you credit because no one has capacity to grasp what went on. Okay. They just know a little surface here and there. 40 years ago, we decided in India to change complete focus from Western model to Indian model. So what we really need in India today is Indian model of development. So if we follow this East India Company model, if you follow capital intensive industry, if we follow centralized architecture, authoritarian regime, number of jobs you will create will be minimum. So to create more jobs, you need democratic framework today. You need a framework where everything is decentralized. So my first point is employment creation has huge implications on the kind of government you will have. If you have authoritarian regime, it will be centralized. It will focus on few very rich, big industries. It will be a centralized model, and there will be GDP, GNP growth, but it will not percolate down to employment for large number of people. I don't think people understand that. Okay. If I want to create jobs, I want democracy. I want freedom. I want justice. I want peace. And there cannot be peace if we keep fighting with each other. If we don't respect everyone, if we don't have communal harmony, if we don't have religious freedom, we will not have peace. And if you have no peace, there are no jobs. Now let's look at jobs in various sectors. People want office jobs. People want government jobs because that gives you security. It is said that thousands and thousands of people in India prepare for these government exams. Some spend 10 years. What a waste of time, according to me. I would encourage young people to say, I don't want a government job. I will create jobs. I'm capable of creating jobs. I'm not going to take job away from somebody. I'm blessed with education, health, some level of confidence. We need to create more entrepreneurs in India who will create jobs. But for that, you need freedom, you need autonomy, you need flexibility. And in authoritarian regime, you don't get that. You have fear that somebody will get after you. And that's where I think job creation requires, on one hand, top level policy decisions, on the other hand, bottom level development. So the key to Indian job creation, and I'll go into details, is one, democracy, decentralization, bottom-up development, non-capital intensive industries, focus on small and medium-scale industries, and not on big businesses. Today, you go to a bank, they'll give you loan for 1,000 crores, 100 crores, but they won't give you loan for 50 lakhs because that's pretty risky. And for them to meet their quota of distributing 1,000 crores, their job is easy if they give it to one person or two people as opposed to 500 or 1,000. And that's why the people who really need money don't get it. And you get money when you don't need it, and you get too much of it. So you misuse it. So we need to create rural jobs to take income from urban areas to rural areas. Today, we are creating urban jobs, so people come from rural areas to urban areas, and income is moving from rural areas to urban areas. We need to do exactly opposite. So we need to create job first in agriculture and food. Agriculture and food industry in India is pretty inefficient. 40% of the food is wasted in all developing countries before it comes to the table. 40% of the food is wasted in all advanced countries after it comes to the table. These are facts. I run a non-profit organization out of Washington, D.C. called Global Knowledge Initiative. I started that about 15 years ago. And we do a lot of research on food in Africa and everywhere. And we did a study for Rockefeller Foundation, which says 40% of the food is wasted in emerging markets before it comes to table because of poor storage, poor distribution, rats, all kinds of issues. And in rich countries, 40% get wasted after it gets to the table because people don't order what they eat. They waste too much food. So here is a big, big opportunity for job creation. In India, it is not about feeding everybody. It is also about providing right nutrition. Every time I go to Gujarat, I find Gujarati kids are shorter and lighter. For some reason, they don't get the right nutrition. On one hand, you talk about Gujarat model of development. On the other hand, you look at the nutrition and you find there is a disconnect. Second big area is housing. You could be building housing for next 20 years in India and still not meet demand. And then upgrading housing. People don't upgrade their house. I'll give you one silly example. I had a friend, he went to Harvard to get an MBA, Mehta family, Gujarati. And they had a toilet in their house in Baroda. And the toilet didn't have the latch. So every time somebody went to toilet, he will keep coughing. So you know that there is somebody in the toilet. For 30 years, they did not install latch. This is a story told to me, and I visited this friend in America. The point is the mindset of maintenance of a home needs to change. Home requires continuous upgrade, from painting to doors to latch to nails to you name it, windows, and that's a lot of work. Who is doing it? Maintenance is a great employment generation. And some of this work is not going to change because of AI. AI will have impact on office workers. AI will not have impact on maintenance. AI will not have that much impact on housing, on agriculture. These jobs are going to remain. Form filling jobs will be taken away by AI. Accounting jobs will be simplified by AI. Legal jobs will be simplified by AI. But no maintenance job is going to be done by AI. Tourism is another great example of job creation. Water. In Rajiv Gandhi's time, we had a technology mission on water. At that time, India had 35 or 37,000 villages with guinea worm. Guinea worm is a worm that comes out of your body like a spaghetti. It just comes out from anywhere, and you can roll it on a pen. Okay. In India, we had guinea worm in 37,000 villages. It comes out of waterborne disease. So our job was to eliminate guinea worm. We did finally. Nobody talks about it. Nobody even knows about it. Guinea worm has been eradicated in India with safe well, but it was a job. Water pump installation is a job. Converting all the farmers' pumps into solar pump, DC pump, is a job. There are huge amount of opportunities in water, health, education, art and craft. These are the jobs that require a little bit of entrepreneurship. Unfortunately, we look at jobs in East India Company of India today or in government. So jobs are there, but we are not willing to accept the jobs that require people. We want jobs that are being eliminated. We want jobs on factory floor. We want jobs in offices, and we want jobs in government services. The amount of work that needs to be done in India on environment will probably create 50 million jobs. On a simple sort of number crunching basis, India has 1.5 billion people. Let's take average age of 75, which is good. If it is 75 average lifespan, per year we are going to have 20 million new people. 75 multiplied by 2 is 1.5. So every year you need 20 million new jobs, assuming that all young people want jobs, not counting the backlog. So if I'm looking at 21-year-old person looking for a job, 20 million 21 years come into market every year. How do we create 20 million new jobs? It can only be created through decentralization at district level. Because at district level, we don't have enough doctors, enough nurses, enough teachers, enough anything. And the bottom line today is to really focus on new strategy. Old strategy doesn't work. And that's the kind of conversation I want to have with you. So we need to expand, we need to excel, and we need to provide equity to everybody. We need jobs for OBC, Dalits, minorities on an equal opportunity basis. And it's a tough task. We need to create jobs in sports, tool and die making. We need to create jobs on nutrition. We need to create jobs in cleaning. I mean, it's limitless because we have the young population. Everywhere else, population is aging. They need workers. We have workers. Why should I send my workers abroad? I don't understand. Why did I send 50,000 doctors to America? I need doctors back home. But it's not paying, so people leave. We have the workforce for the world, and that workforce is required at home first, and not to go to Israel to fight during war and feed people of Israel. I think that is the challenge in our job creation.
Sam,
So I'd like to
yeah,
close by saying job creation is a big challenge, but it cannot be met with the existing strategy. First requirement is democracy, peace, justice, equality, freedom, and harmony. That's the first requirement. Second requirement is to change the East India Company model of corporate hunger for profit. Third is to really create a new model of decentralization. Small is beautiful. SMEs with focus on agriculture, services. When I say agriculture, I mean food also. Services, tourism, SMEs, and not focus too much on capital intensive industries where all big companies want free land, free tax, this advantage, that advantage, will only go to shareholders, not to employees. If we begin with that kind of a conversation, then it is possible for us to create 20 million new jobs. But 20 million new jobs cannot be created in the existing architecture. That's the conversation. And then we can have a longer debate on it. We can dissect it sector by sector and have finer conversation. But I want all young people like you all to create jobs. Why should you take jobs away from somebody? You are blessed. You are intelligent. You should create jobs. Each one of you can create 100 jobs, like the Abdullah did that I spoke to about. Okay.
Sam, quick time check.
Thank
We
you. No,
Yeah,
I think it has been too long, but I understand. I
no,
had
no,
to say it.
this is good.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Thanks
yeah,
for the opportunity to say these things
sure thing,
because
sure
I
thing.
don't get
So, Sam, how do you want to do this? Do you want to go around the table? Just
it. Is let's first go through our team here that's on the screen,
yeah,
because
sounds
they
good.
are the one who initiated this conversation. So I want
Sure.
to hear from them, their input, and then we can open up for a broader conversation. My
Sounds good.
apology for being too long,
Hey, no issues, Sam. This
but I tell you,
from your heart is a very important topic.
yeah,
What are your
and
thoughts?
that's why it is important to understand a little bit of background.
Certainly. So, Priyamada, I'll start with you. Maybe just go ahead, shoot. What are your thoughts or questions, comments you have about thing in a precise manner, so that I'll ask Sam to respond.
Yeah, so thank you for this great insight, especially about the East India Company model, which you mentioned, which is not actually taught to us or not even spoken in the political or any scene. So we actually don't know, because when from school onwards, we were taught that, get good grades and join a good company. So this point of yours where you're saying that each one of you are actually an entrepreneur, like you can create jobs, is a very uh, new insight. And actually we saw government doing the uh, make in India marketing gimmick, which didn't work at all. So today, as of now, like people are basically disillusioned. Actually, there is disillusionment amongst the youth, and they actually don't know where they're heading to. And the case is worse with the people in the rural areas, like we see also in small towns like Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, where majority of the youth, they are dependent on government jobs, sir, and there is no like we saw the railway vacancy, which Rahul Gandhi ji had mentioned, that there were just 5,600 vacancies for like 20 million youth who are applying. So this is just like we are going downscale, and we need to revive ourselves with the thought process, as well as how things are being taught in schools as well. So this needs to start at a young age. This which you said, that we need a change of thought process. So this needs to be imbibed from the young age itself, that it's not just, you don't have to just bang on the government jobs, because we are being told that, oh, you have to get, if you have a government job, you're settled in life. That's what has been imbibed with the youth of India. So people are more dependent on uh, corporates, on government institutions, and when they fail to provide this, you see the competition, and you see the killing of each other for just like one application, which you saw even in IT sector. So I think uh, you have made like this was a new insight for us, and I think we should take this ahead with us and think about ourselves, like how we can create jobs and employment opportunities for others. So thank you, sir.
You have to get out of colonial mentality.
Exactly.
Okay, you have to say, look, I am free, I am somebody, I will do it. You can do it. I'm telling you, each one of you can build a big business. You'll fail once in a while, that's great. There are lessons to learn. But how could you go and take something away from somebody? There are millions who are less qualified than you. You are lucky to have a healthy body with two hands, two eyes, and that's the big start. Believe me, a lot of people don't have that. Why should you take job away from somebody? You have all the education. Look at the problems to be solved. Just stay out and stand somewhere and see the problems that need to be solved in India. And opportunity is all about problem solving. If you
That's
solve a problem, people will come to you.
That's a very nice point, Sam. Watching the public walks across the world. I'll just jump quickly to Isha, Sam, if you are okay. Go ahead,
Sure.
Isha.
Hi, good to see everybody again. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Hi. So I have quick, very pointed questions, if that works.
Sure.
A lot of these thoughts I've been thinking about for years now, and it's very good to hear you because, in a lot of ways, you're articulating a lot of what I'm trying to think about and say. Most pressing question in my mind is, so we have a lot of embodied knowledge bases and skill sets in India. How do you identify them? And how do you know if I'm the right person to identify them? Not me per se, but is there somebody who can do that same job better? Then, after identifying them, how do you leverage them? And then, how do you connect them with the right kind of assets that would be required? So, how do you provide entrepreneurial support? That nexus and that discontinuity between those four things is what bothers me, and I would want to discuss that more.
See, a lot of these things also depend on the local ecosystem. So what works at national level may not work at local level. So I won't worry about boiling the ocean. See, a lot of people want to boil the ocean. Not the right thing to do. Don't worry about global challenges and this and that in the beginning. Okay. Solve local problem. If you're in Raipur, don't worry about solving a problem in Kashmir. Solve problem in Raipur. Okay. But people want to, imagine this because it's nice escape. Okay. So see what are the needs in Raipur. What can you do there? How do you bring entrepreneurs there? Start a group of young entrepreneurs in Raipur. Go to Raipur, business school. There is IIT in Raipur. There is IIM in Raipur. I gave a convocation speech there. So meet up with IIM Raipur guys. Create an entrepreneurial initiative. Just focus on local stuff. Because we need local capabilities. Okay. Then don't worry about IIM Bangalore. Just worry about IIM Raipur in the beginning. Okay.
Any question? Any other question, Isha?
Hold on just for a second. Then see what Raipur or local community is known for. You got to have core competence. Every place has their core competence. It could be agriculture, machine tool. It could be, service industry, software, mining, whatever. Focus on that core competence. There is huge amount of work in Chhattisgarh, believe me. Okay, Chhattisgarh can keep 10 million people busy and still not get things done. Yeah. When I was growing up, they were just starting Bhilai plant. Okay. So I used to take a train as a little boy to go to Gujarat to study. And we were fascinated with hundreds of sort of machines digging this red soil. And we realized that the red soil is basically iron. As little kids, we knew that this is iron. And that's why they are building steel mill in Bhilai. That was not too long ago, 50 years ago, 60 years ago. And look at what Bhilai is today. That's what it takes. So you capitalize on the ore in that area. So you got to look at what is available in that area. Okay. So to answer your question, I would say, take charge. You connect, don't wait for somebody else to do it. You're waiting for somebody else to solve that problem. You do it. Okay, you go meet IIM professor and say, hey, I want to start a group on entrepreneurs. Maybe girls, entrepreneurial girls in Raipur. Set up a little group, get 10 of you together, meet regularly, identify opportunities, build a business together. You know.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Sean.
Thank you, Sam. Isha, if you are okay, I'll go around the table and then come back to you. Is that okay?
Yes, please, totally.
Yeah. Bala, what is that question you have, which is pestering your mind, not letting you sleep about employment?
One thing is economic interdependence. How can we bring change through economic interdependence? Like in 2002, Godhra riots, Ahmedabad saw a very big rioting and all because Hindus and Muslims were fighting. But the same another city like Surat, you didn't see any riots because Hindu businessmen were employing Muslim people. So this economic interdependence somehow brought peace within the communities. Likewise, how jobs should be created, like Rahul Gandhi ji says, Abadi ke liye, how much population, that much quota we are supposed to give, jitni Abadi utni hak. Like that, how these things can be put into jobs and employment to bring peace. This is my question, sir.
I really don't understand your question. Can you just fine tune it for me, please?
Basically, that in 2002, when the Godhra riots were happening, Ahmedabad saw a very big tragedy, but Surat didn't see it because
Because it's a
people
local
were
issue.
interdependent.
But because it's a local issue, that's what I'm saying. You got to solve the local problem.
Okay.
Okay. Surat has to solve Surat problem. Ahmedabad has to solve Ahmedabad problem. Okay. Patna has to solve Patna problem. Don't try to boil the ocean. It's a very important advice. Most of the people want to boil the ocean. Okay. Don't do that. Just
So
take
I'm
one
supposed
little
to see
thing.
the problem in
Yeah,
the
you
area
got to
around
really look
me.
at the local problem. Okay.
Okay.
Absolutely. Don't worry about everything else because it's not in your control. Realize what you can control and what you can't control. You know,
Okay.
we all have limitations. Accept that. But get something done. Okay.
So I think listening to your local market, I think it's a very good kind of way to germinate new ideas as an entrepreneur, Bala. I think that's where Sam is heading to. I'll just go to Rafika. Rafika, go ahead. Yeah. Rafika,
Thank you very much.
don't hesitate to ask the question in Hindi.
Hi, Rafiq.
या हेलो सर, सैम सर को मैं सुन रहा था. वाकई में मैं बता रहा हूँ कि इन्होंने जितने पॉइंट्स को और टॉपिक्स को इन्होंने कवर किया, मैं एक एक पॉइंट से कोरिलेट कर पा रहा था. और जो मुझे सबसे ज्यादा हिट किया मामला, जो मैं अभी फील कर रहा हूँ, जो देख रहा हूँ मैं, चूंकि मैं इस वक्त मैं मिडिल ईस्ट में हूँ और यहाँ पर हजारों लाखों हमारे देश के लोग आके काम कर रहे हैं. अभी जैसा कि इन्होंने बताया था ना, जो अथॉरिटोरियन जो एक वो रिजिम वाली जो बात इन्होंने कही, जो एक हमारे जैसे बिजनेस, मैं एक्चुअली एक कंस्ट्रक्शन फील्ड में हूँ, कंसल्टिंग फॉर्म में। तो जो हम लोग शुरू करना चाहते हैं इंडिया में भी, लेकिन कई चीजें ऐसी आती हैं, चाहे वो गवर्नमेंट की तरफ से हो, चाहे लोकल अथॉरिटी की तरफ से हो, मतलब बहुत सारी चीजें फेवरेबल नहीं होने की वजह से हमारे जैसे या कई ऐसे लोग हैं जो लाखों जॉब्स क्रिएट कर सकते हैं इंडिया के अंदर में, वो लोग सिर्फ इसी वजह से वहां पे नहीं जाते हैं क्योंकि उन्हें लगता है कि उनको किसी तरह का सपोर्ट नहीं मिलेगा। कहीं ना कहीं कोई चीज एंगल ऐसा ला दिया जाएगा, चाहे वो कम्युनल एंगल ला दिया जाए या किसी भी तरह का दूसरा एंगल ला दिया जाए। जैसा इन्होंने कहा ना, जो बॉटम लाइन था कि डेमोक्रेसी को मजबूत जब तक हम लोग नहीं करेंगे, यकीन मानिए जॉब क्रिएट करना बहुत मुश्किल है। और बिना इंडस्ट्रियल रिवॉल्यूशन के जो हम बात कर रहे हैं कि 1% 2% सिर्फ हमारे जॉब्स हैं गवर्नमेंट सेक्टर में, उसके अलावा बाकी के लोग क्या करेंगे? तो हमें कहीं ना कहीं इंडस्ट्रीज को आगे लाना होगा, इंडस्ट्रियलिस्ट को ये कॉन्फिडेंस देना होगा कि यू कम इन इंडिया, क्रिएट जॉब्स एंड वी विल प्रोवाइड यू ऑल वट एवर थिंग्स आर रिक्वायर्ड देयर। लेकिन
I am
प्रॉब्लम
not
यहां
saying you
पर
come
है,
in India. I am saying we are in India. I don't need
वी आर
anybody.
इन इंडिया। एग्जैक्टली
I don't need
एग्जैक्टली
anybody to come in India and create jobs. I can tell you that. I'm arrogant.
या
Okay.
एग्जैक्टली, नो आई अंडरस्टैंड, बट
Yeah.
ये एक बहुत बड़ा, चूंकि मैं अभी इस चीज को फेस कर रहा हूं, तो मुझे ये चीज लग रहा है कि जो आपने ये बॉटम लाइन जो है ना, कि अपनी डेमोक्रेसी को स्ट्रेंथन कीजिए, यही इंपॉर्टेंट चीज है। तब जाकर जो वादे हो रहे हैं ना, 2 करोड़ रोजगार पैदा करेंगे, ये करेंगे, वो सिर्फ हवाई बातें हैं।
बिल्कुल।
एग्जैक्टली ये हो रहा है कि आपने लखनऊ में देखा कि सैकड़ों लोगों की लाइन लगी थी, इसराइल जैसे जो अभी बिल्कुल वार चल रहा है, वहां पे लोग जाने के लिए बेचैन है। तो हजारों रोजगार तो हमारे जैसे लोग क्रिएट कर सकते हैं इंडिया के अंदर में। और सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट चीज है, जो सेमी या फिर जो इंफॉर्मल सेक्टर हमारा है, उसको किस तरीके से खराब किया गया इसी गवर्नमेंट के, मतलब इसी गवर्नमेंट, मतलब कि गवर्नमेंट की पॉलिसी जो इंपॉर्टेंट चीज है, गवर्नमेंट की पॉलिसी अगर अच्छी नहीं होगी तो कैसे एक सेक्टर खराब बर्बाद हो जाता है। हम लोगों ने आंखों से देखा, मेरे 2 फैक्ट्रीज दिल्ली में बंद हुए हैं सिर्फ इस वजह से कि तरीके से जीएसटी वगैरह कोई नहीं लाया गया, उसकी वजह से हमारे 3 फैक्ट्रियां बंद हुई। तो ये चीजें किसको असर करी? इंडियन इकोनॉमी पर, रोजगार पर। हजारों लोगों को जो गांव से आते हैं, विलेजेस से आते हैं, उन लोगों के रोजगार पर असर पड़ा। तो इन इन चीजों पे कोई फोकस नहीं कर रहा है। अब जैसे जीडीपी की हम लोग बात कर रहे थे, जीडीपी बढ़ रहा आगे, हमारा रोजगार यानी कि मिल रहा है लोगों को, ये बिल्कुल बेवकूफी वाली बात है। ये लोगों को बेवकूफ बनाने की बातें हैं। आप रोजगार को अगर देखोगे, अगर जैसा कि शान भाई ने कई चीजों को दिखाया यहाँ पर स्क्रीन पर, ये चीजें लोगों को हिट नहीं कर पा रही है क्योंकि हमारे देश के अंदर में सोशल मीडिया हो या फिर जो मेन मीडिया है, वो इन चीजों पे तरीके से बात ही नहीं कर रही है, सही फिगर लेकर आने की कोशिश नहीं कर रही है। तो बिल्कुल बॉटम लाइन में ये कहना चाहूंगा, जो सैम सर ने कहा, बिल्कुल मैं इस बात से एग्री करता हूं कि जब तक आप अपने डेमोक्रेसी को स्ट्रेंथन नहीं करेंगे इस सोच से, और सरकार की जो एक जबरदस्ती तानाशाही वाली जो अंदाज होगा, अगर उस पर काम करेगी, तो कभी भी रोजगार इतने पैदा नहीं होंगे। आप डराकर धमकाकर पुलिस के दम पर लड़कों को खामोश कर सकते हो, आप उनको कुछ भी आप दे सकते हो पॉलिसी के नाम पर, अग्निवीर लेकर आप आए, कोई मतलब नहीं था उस चीज का। लड़कों के टैलेंट को, जो हमारी उम्र 25 से लेकर 44 साल के बीच में, 44 इयर्स के अंदर में जो सबसे ज्यादा स्किल्ड और मतलब कि इंथुसियास्टिक जो यूथ हैं, उनके आप स्किल को सही से इस्तेमाल ना करके आप उनको डरा धमका के रखने की कोशिश करोगे, तो ये ज्यादा दिनों तक चलेगा नहीं। और मुझे लगता है कि भारत में एम्प्लॉयमेंट की सिर्फ एक ही सबसे मेन मुझे रीजन नजर आ रहा है, वो ये है कि प्रॉपर तरीके से अगर पॉलिसी काम नहीं करती है, और गवर्नमेंट की पॉलिसी एक इस सोच की तरफ हो कि आपको किसी तरह से दबा के रखेंगे, तो कभी भी रोजगार पैदा होने वाला नहीं है। दैट्स
एग्री।
थैंक यू।
सच बात है।
That's a very nice commentary, Rafiq. Thanks a lot, and hope Sam is agreeing. And Dibya, you have any particular question, commentary, viewpoints, ideas? Go ahead, Dibya. Sorry.
So the thing I'm concerned about the Indian employment.
Dibya, can you be a little louder, man? Yeah.
Am I audible properly, sir?
Yeah.
So the main thing that I'm concerned about the unemployment, that is mainly of for educated unemployment, that is of the low standards of our Indian institutions and universities. So when we compare our educational institutions with the ones outside of the country, we found that our education methodology, our teaching methodology is extremely flawed. outdated, and the students are not trained to meet the needs of the economy. They are not being trained to understand the subject to the core, but rather than to cram up the syllabus and get the right grades. And another thing is that the the business model that the education nowadays became, the present education system has become a way of business for the most, as we all know. The education fees, the institution fees are skyrocketing, whereas the quality of the education is remain substandard. So how these things can be tackled up so that we can have a quality education rather than the quantity of lot of institutions?
So long-term education is a long-term issue. I would recommend that you look at a report of the National Knowledge Commission, which is available on internet. Go look at it. It was a report done during Dr. Manmohan Singh's time, which talks about employment and education. Education needs to be reformed everywhere. Even in US, education is not in tune with the jobs of tomorrow. Things are changing too fast in technology. Education has to be relevant to the needs of the society. And job is one piece. There are other areas of education. Education is not only for job, it is also for better citizen, enlightened people. So education system everywhere is under stress. In India, probably more. We need more emphasis today on vocational education than on more BA graduates. We know that. Okay. So I would say education system needs to be fine-tuned, but by the time you see the impact of that on job is going to be a little longer than what we are talking about. We are looking at jobs now. In next 2-3 years, can we really ramp up the number so we create 20 million jobs a year? That's the challenge. Okay.
Sir, I have like 2, 3 raised hands on space.
Sure.
So yeah. So Sridhar, if you could unmute and ask your question.
Yeah.
I saw some.
Good evening, sir. Good evening, sir. Thank you for your valuable insights. I just keep it short. I just had a query. The recent unemployment data that has come, which you have seen, like the PLFS data that has come up, which shows high rural unemployment, especially. I mean, the gap between rural and urban unemployment is massive. And also, if you look at the age groups, like it's from 18 to 30, which is high, even 30 to 34, the age group unemployment is very high. And if you've seen in recent times, like post demonetization and GST, a lot of the MSMEs had to close down and were shut down because of that. And it's very unlikely that a lot of the old jobs are going to come back. What do you think should be the top priority for the next government in terms of employment generation once it comes? What should be the number one focus, especially for rural employment generation?
Rural employment generation has to be the top priority. MSME has to be the top priority, and not capital intensive big industries. Like I said, it can't be top down approach. It has to be bottom up approach. So in terms of real policy issues, if there is a government change, I would recommend focus on SME, decentralization, local talent, local capabilities, rural employment. These are the fundamental issues. Give you one or two examples. In India, we have clusters. So when we were working on Innovation Council, we had identified some major clusters like brassware cluster in Muradabad, where 500,000 people work, bamboo cluster in Agartala, furniture cluster in Kerala, pharmaceutical cluster in Ahmedabad. food processing cluster in Hyderabad, stuff like this. And we found that these clusters don't have the kind of scientific talent you need. When we went to Muradabad, we found that Muradabad people have a lot of lung disease. Part of the problem was that the furnace that they use was designed 80 years ago. So we took some IIT professors, redesigned the furnace, because that kind of help they don't get. We took CSIR to work on cleaning brass using some special chemical. We decided in Agartala to modify their machines to cut bamboo differently. So all of these clusters require high technology help. We don't do that because that's not part of the focus. Focus is again on big steel mill, petrochemical plant, solar power plant. It's all big is beautiful as opposed to small is beautiful. Next.
Yeah. Divya, could you unmute and ask your question?
Yeah. Thank you, Primala. Good evening, Sam sir.
Yes.
Sam, I would like to talk the idea which you gave on maintenance industry being a main thing. That was most striking for me, because the world over we see everybody is talking about having manufacturing, making India as a manufacturing hub or a production-based economy, which only requires, in addition to raw material and resources, a lot of capital. But when we talk about a maintenance industry, it maybe fits into what you said, like we can utilize our human capital for maintaining, and plus it's also suits the world over the agenda which we have, like reduce, recycle, and reuse. So maintenance industry also suits probably for a country like India more than a manufacturing hub, a maintenance hub, maintenance industry hub, because it India has maybe not specialists, but we have super, maybe a mid-level skilled population, which is too high. And I think that is one of our main thing. We are not at the lowest end, maybe, but we are at the end where we are right now, can do a lot of maintenance activities. So in addition to that, I also wanted to have your views on thinking of human capital uh, as an as a consumer market also, because I want to put a point here that these days when I see Google or Facebook or Twitter or like the digital the monoliths of the company, I mean like the unicorns of the world, they are, for them India is a market, and I don't think they value India only because of the talent available from India. Of course it is, I mean like we have supply world over, but they see more as a market, and so is the matter for Coca-Cola and all other industries. They see India as a huge market. So how do you see India itself using its human capital not only as a maintenance industry as a hub, but also as a local market? Because I mean I can relate it to telecom industry, which you said telecom industry once it was a huge sector, and as you said. But right now, what we see is two or three maybe players: Jio, Airtel, BSNL, which has the maximum cover of, and they are all national players actually, and they are serving an industry which was futuristic, which maybe have a lot more applications also. So, can you identify any other industries where the human capital or the human consumer, as a consumer, can be a strength for India?
Many, many, many. You name it and you can do it. Whether it is maintenance, health is a big industry. Okay, world over, population is aging. Indian population is young and increasing. I want to re-emphasize the fact that we have the workforce for the world, not just India. What are these aging countries going to do? Where are they going to find young people to work? And young people are not only human capital, but they are also consumers. India is better positioned because our young people create market for clothing, food, education, health, insurance, you name it. They are consumers. In other countries, population is aging, consumers are less and less. Chinese population is going down so rapidly that it is believed perhaps by end of the century, China will have 500 million people. Now, can you imagine that? 1/3 of what they have today? If that's the case, they will not be a very large economy. Large economy will be the one with largest population. But that's not necessarily something to be proud of, because per capita income will define the overall growth. And in addition, financial growth is not necessarily the indicator of happiness. So don't get confused that if you are rich, you are happy. Okay. So these are all very complex questions. You don't need to look too far to generate employments in India. The demand for everything is very large. Everything. You got to do a better job. People will pay. People will pay. You got to, focus on something and get it done. You got to take one thing and get it done. Ability to get things done is an art. A lot of people don't know how to get things done. They know how to debate, discuss, because it is Brahminian, is to talk about it. Sudra's work is to get it done. Nobody wants to do Sudra's work.
So another question from Shambhu. Could you unmute? Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Priyamada and Sridhar and the team, and a special thanks to Sam sir, who is giving time to us. So my question is related to something comparative analysis between the Congress government and the BJP government. So, for example, if I look until the 2014, the BSNL is one of the reputed organization in the telecommunication sector who is recruiting around 5,000 to 10,000 employee per year. I mean, it is a roughly figure, not a correct one, but it is recruiting. And after 2014, I didn't see any recruitment from the BSNL. So my question is, at the policy level, at the strategic level, what are the big mistakes from the current government to raise the unemployment rate in India?
I was in charge of doing a report on BSNL in Manmohan Singh's government. I had Deepak Parekh, the chairman of HDFC, and who else was there? There was somebody else with me. We spent fair amount of time. I think I had maybe Maya Verma, chairman of State Bank of India. And we worked for about 3 months and put together a set of recommendations to revive BSNL. Those recommendations were not followed. Okay. Not that we had all the answers, but we understood what BSNL was all about. See, one of the challenges in India is that best talent existed only in public sectors. Telecom talent was only in the government. So when all these people built their private businesses, they stole all the talent from government. They built their businesses based on government talent. So all the key guys who build companies outside for private people, they all came from telecom department. So you have robbed the government telecom department of the talent by giving them 4 times, 5 times more salaries. Fine, it's okay. And you build your businesses. That's also fine. Okay. But there is price to be paid. The government could not keep telecom engineers on the payroll they had. So private people came and offered them 5 times salary. And they built. I had a friend who is a very interesting story, I must tell you. He was with Punjab Wireless. So when I was chairman Telecom Commission, we decided to build a fiber optics factory of our own. This was 1988. And everybody world over said, you cannot build a fiber optics factory in India. It's too ambitious. And we said, we are going to build it. Rajiv Gandhi cabinet gave us approval. And we wanted to build it in Bangalore. But then we had telecom minister who was Arjun Singh, and he wanted to build it in Bhopal. Okay. So I took this young man from Punjab Wireless, okay, asked him to go to Japan, do a deal, and we decided to make fiber optics cable in Bhopal. Today, we are the largest producer of fiber optics cable in the world. We produce huge amount of fiber optics cable. He then got hired by Airtel to build Airtel. Then he got hired by Jio to build Jio. These are the people who build private enterprises, which is fine. But that's how it works. This is not only in telecom, it is probably in steel industry, it is probably in manufacturing of other industries. Wherever there was a talent in the government, private parties took that talent and built their businesses. Fine.
So there is another one. Lynn wants to ask a question. Lynn, can you unmute yourself?
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Mr. Sam. I just want to ask you a question. Now, with this current government, we find a few handful of multinationals, or I don't want to name the companies, getting a free hand to operate every sector in the country. Do you think there will be an exploitation of labor happening?
Already happened. What do you mean happening? It's already happened. It's a East India company of yesterday.
So is it what do we tell the youth of the country? I know everybody needs to come out and vote rightly, but what do you tell the youth of the country? In what
You have
way
to tell youth of the country that if you want to create jobs, you want democracy, you want freedom, you want justice, you want decentralization, you want local talent, and you don't want just capital intensive industries. If youth understands that, they will decide on their future.
So exactly, but with the huge young population coming out to vote, why are they not getting convinced to vote for the right people? They want to see the changes, right? You and me, probably as parents, we have a role to play.
Because they listen too much to social media, they listen too much to all this, publicity, controlled media, they see television channels, they don't find their own truth. You have to find your own truth. They are not interested in finding their own truth. They want somebody else to tell them what the truth is, which is all lies, misinformation. Okay. All I want young people to do is find your own truth. If you find your own truth,
it's too late.
Yeah, I understand. But you can do that in 1 week. You don't need, 2 years to find your own truth. If you're capable, you can do it in 1 week. Find your own truth. You can see what is right, what is wrong. But if you don't want to see it, there isn't much I can do. If people think God is going to create jobs for me, then more power to them. You know? So what can I do?
Thank you.
So before like you just move on, my question is like, what has China like discovered or found that we haven't? Because now in manufacturing actually, because we are the like largest workforce, we have the largest workforce, we are even surpassed in population. So what is it that we are lacking and missing? So why don't we see Indian goods imports like in the world? Like made in India. What
Because we
is
don't
that?
make. Because we
What
don't make.
No, I mean, what is that we are missing with all the resources? Like, is it just the government policy actions, or like it just,
Lots of things. Lots
yeah.
of things. Not just one. There are lots of things we are missing. One is the trained workforce, the government incentives, okay, commitment to get it done. Lots of things. You find an entrepreneur saying, I want to make, I'll give you an example. I had a meeting in Manmohan Singh's time with top business leaders in Silicon Valley. I was in California, so decided to meet all the top, IBM, Google, everybody. They were all there. And one of the persons, head of Nike, told me, he said, Mr. Pitroda, we want to come to India to make shoes because it is better for us to make it in India and ship it to Middle East than to make it in China and ship it. But I find that you don't have logistics. So if I make it in Kandla, first thing I need is 20,000 young people to work. 2, I need logistic support. I need power, I need water. In Chinese government will say, okay, we'll get all that done. In Indian government, I can't get that done. But then other side of it is that business model of getting foreign capital to create jobs is not the answer. That is the East India Company model. Model is to take all the chamars in India, organize them, decentralize making shoes. In every district, there should be a huge center of shoe making. Okay? You don't have to make shoes at one place in quantities of 10 million. You can make shoes in 10 places in quantities of 1 million. That is the difference. Yeah.
So if you want to like become China in manufacturing, you think that you saying is we should like organize our own small, like whatever our businesses are, and make them into big and then export.
Plus, I'm not interested in just becoming a China to export to other people. I want to first meet the needs of our own people. Okay? I mean, what is the sense in having, produce goods for everybody else and not have enough for your own people? That's the difference. I don't like the existing models. Okay? Why should I make all the shoes and send it abroad when my own people can't wear shoes? Why should I take my best talent and send it to Israel and not use them in Haryana? So it's a philosophical issue. Okay.
Okay, thank you, sir. Shan, you have any questions?
No, I think it's a good. We have had a good 90 minutes conversation. I think Sam.
I hope this was useful.
Yeah, this
Yes,
was
sir.
very useful, Sam. So maybe do you want to do a different topic? Healthcare was the next one you were suggesting. So
It's up to you all. Decide. I think this is now the team that can decide what you guys want to hear. I'm open to whatever you want. I can talk about lots of interesting things. I can talk about leadership. I can talk about, you name it. I'll try. Not that I'm very good at everything, but I'll try. Yes, Isha.
Could we try to continue talking about this and leadership a little bit more?
Okay, let's talk about employment and leadership.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay, so next week, yeah, the same topic.
Yep.
Leadership is a very interesting topic.
I think leadership will take a separate
It's a big topic. It
session.
will be a
Yeah.
big topic. So let's continue on employment for a while, 1 or 2 sessions, and then we can, go to leadership. There was a meeting on leadership 20 years ago in Geneva. Not in Geneva, in where was it? In Switzerland.
World Economic Forum?
No. This was somewhere else. I'm just forgetting the name of the place. Anyway, in Switzerland, where you are supposed to speak for 4 hours continuously, straight.
4
on
hours.
leadership. Okay. They have 4 speakers for 2 days. I was invited to speak Interlaken. It was at Interlaken. Okay. I'm sure it's on the web somewhere. And it was very interesting to speak for 4 hours on leadership. Okay. Amazing meeting. So we'll talk about leadership. Leadership is a big topic.
Sounds good. And maybe next week we'll continue on employment and unemployment issues.
Yeah, let's continue on employment, and let's have specific questions from people. Sure. Saying, what do? I want to start a business. What business I start? How do I start a business? Where do I get money? Where do I get support? How can I create jobs?
Maybe next week we'll start with the questions itself directly, Sam.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And you can tell people to be ready with the questions.
Sounds good. Thank you, Sam. Thanks everybody for.
Thanks everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam sir. Thanks,
Thank
Sham.
you. Thank you very much for your valuable time and
thanks everybody.
information,
See you
Mr.
next
Sam.
week.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.